Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 50 of the Debt Free Dad podcast. You know, we are in the last month of 2020, which has been one of the most interesting, stressful, and chaotic years that I've ever lived in my 41 years on this earth. So the question really stands is, where do we go from here? 2021 is upon us today, and we are talking all about how to set good financial goals for the upcoming year, even with everything that's going on right now. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Debt Free Dad podcast, where we're helping normal, everyday people learn how to save money and kick debt so they can live a happier and stress-free life. Now here's your host, Debt Free Dad, Brad Nelson.
Hey, how's everyone doing today? You can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search Brad Nelson, Debt Free Dad, and we would love to connect with you on one of those social channels. So, guys, it is the last show of 2020, making it our 50th episode. That's pretty impressive. I'm pretty proud of us that we went that long. We kind of started this show out. We didn't really have any goals with it. You know, it's kind of like, hey, we want to do this. We want to try it, get to more people and talk about this idea of living a life without payments. And it's been an awesome year.
I can't believe it's already the end of the year.
I know. It's crazy, right?
With everything going on, especially, you know, the first couple months during this whole coronavirus stuff was kind of dragging on. And now I feel like, man, this year kind of flew by.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
It flew by for us. Yeah,
but 50 episodes. And I got to say to all of our listeners out there, it's been awesome to be able to do these shows weekly for you guys. We've been getting messages and more messages as this podcast has grown. And it's been great to hear how this podcast has encouraged you to take those next steps towards a debt-free life. And some of you have reached out and said that, you know, you were embarrassed about your situation, or you were scared, or you weren't sure where to start. And that was really the goal for this whole podcast, was really just to give you guys the tools and the direction that you needed to get going. And we've all kind of started on our journey, and we know how scary that can be. And so the goal of this show is really just to give you those tools to get started. So it's awesome that a lot of you are taking those next steps. I know a lot of you have been listening to this year, have even taken that ultimate decision, and you've decided to join Roots Personal Finance, which is really cool. But it's been a great year. And I know a lot of people have said, you know, 2020 has been, you know, the worst year ever. And, you know, let's just skip over it. Let's not worry about this anymore. But I like to try to be more proactive and have more of a growth mindset when it comes to this stuff. And there was still some good stuff that happened in 2020. Obviously, we talked that 50th episode of this podcast, you know, from a business standpoint. For our family, we camped 90 days this year, 90 nights. And I didn't think that was going to happen this year. I told my wife, Sarah, when we started camping, I was like, one summer, I want to be able to take off as much time as like you would normally get like for a summer break. And I want to be able to go camp and have fun and just do something different. I mean, how many people have that opportunity to, like, you know, just take 3 months off and just go camp and have an adventure? And we didn't do it 90 consecutive days this summer, but we did it kind of sporadically. But it was still a really great way, especially with everything that was going on. For us, that was a big celebration to be able to take 90 days. I've been working on this business for 6 years. For those who may want to start your own business, I'm telling you, it's not easier than working at a job. Let's just put it that way. It is a lot of work. It is nonstop. So after 6 years of putting this business together and being where we're at, it was nice to be able to take that much time off and just enjoy it.
Yeah, I know for me, my business just boomed this year. So had a lot of growth, and then we did a lot of family stuff too. And we bought a house.
Yeah.
So we did some pretty fantastic things in 2020, and I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah, I mean, same for us. I mean, although there was a lot of frustrations built in due to the whole thing this year.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my big things for me is, you know, our oldest, one of our main focuses of trying to get out of debt was always trying to teach our kids to be better with money and teach them the right things. And, you know, he's going to college. He's been funding it 100% debt free. He works right now part-time selling cars. So he's surrounded by the temptation to buy a car. And he consistently says, I'm just going to keep driving my car. He just had to repair it again for $500, but he's like, that's like a couple months worth of payments. And he knows his car's not the fanciest and sexiest car out there, but his goal is to get through school debt free, and he'll buy a car when he has the cash to do it. And it's just pretty cool to see him do that without us telling him to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And that's how you pass this stuff on. I think, that, it's great for our lives to be able to live this life, but it's also great to be able to pass on that knowledge to your kids, and hopefully they implement as much of that information as they can. So, guys, the question is, a lot of people have said, why even bother setting goals for 2021? I mean, 2020 has been terrible. I mean, there's been even memes out there where they say, 2021's coming around and it's saying, hold my beer 2020. We're going to show you what a real year looks like, right? And there's a lot of people out there who I think have that attitude of, why should I even bother with this? Like, some people, you even see some people were joking, like, the biggest thing I wasted my money on this year was a 2020 planner, right? And I just really think mindset matters. It's hard to fall into this negative mindset, especially with, social media, the news, the election even, right? I mean, there's just so much stuff that happened this year. It's easy to kind of just fall into that, why does it matter? Like, it sucks right now. Why even work towards something better? Would you guys agree that's kind of the attitude going around right now?
Yeah, I think right now, but I also think, I think especially now because of the way this year has turned out, but I also think for me, this was always one of my greatest excuses to be in debt. Like, why bother? I'll save up my emergency fund and something's going to happen. I'll have to spend it. I'll buy a used car and buy a cheap car and then it's going to break. I have to buy a new car. I would make all the excuses of, why even bother? Why even bother doing it? Because I just know something's going to derail me down the road. So it's not even worth it. It wasn't until I got serious and really started trying to do it that it actually worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for us, I think one of the reasons, 2020, yeah, I agree. I mean, we're human. We felt the stress. We felt the chaos of the situations that were happening this year. We felt it. There's no question about it. But I think one of the reasons that I think we were able to, deal with it or cope with everything that was going on, I think, a lot of it has to come back to your finances. And I know money's not the most important thing, but to know that if, for instance, business went down, or we lost income, or whatever the situation might be, our kids couldn't go back to school. I mean, it just seemed like no matter what the situation was, it was always comforting to know that, well, we've planned for this over the last 10 years. We've got a large emergency fund savings. We've got a plan. We know what things to do. We know what actions to take if things are going to start to get a little scary and chaotic. And that brought a lot of peace of mind. If I would have went back 10 years ago and went through the same year again, I can tell you, it would be a completely different story. There's no question about it. And it wouldn't be anybody else's fault but mine, because I put myself in a really bad financial situation. And then with the current events of today, it would have made that situation even worse. And I can easily see how I could have been, just like you said, Ryan, and saying, never going to get ahead, right? It's it's never going to work out for me. And you kind of take that victim role, right? And so I think, for 2021, I think it could be a comeback year. I think it's going to be a comeback year for a lot of people, but I think you have to go into it with that attitude. It's not going to happen on accident. And I think one of the best ways that we can do that is really right now. It's the beginning of December. We still got a month left. Like, start focusing, okay, what are some things that I can control in 2021? What are some things that I have full control of that's going to help me change my life? Right now, as we're recording this, the election just happened a week ago. It happened about a week ago. And what drives me crazy about the elections, and not just this election, but it's every election, is people get so wrapped up in these damn elections, right? And I get leadership is important. I understand that there are situations and definitely things that need to improve in this country across the board. There's so many different things that need to improve. But what bothers me most about these elections is people put so much energy into this one person, yes, that I understand leads the country. I get it. It's important to vote. It's important to your voice is heard. I get all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you showed as much energy every day, day in and day out for you, for your life, the direction it's going, the goals you want to achieve, your finances, your own challenges, the things that you can control, if you focused as much energy on that as fighting with people on Facebook and cheering on your candidate or whatever it might be, holy crap, I bet you most people probably wouldn't even complain about half the issues they complain about, because a lot of them would be fixed because you're working on your own life, right? I think the most important thing you can do is focus around the things that you can change, things that you can improve on. And I think that starts in your own house. I think that starts around your own dinner table with your spouse and your family, and thinking about things that you want to improve in your life.
I think that's important, but it also takes it takes a lot of internal searching for that, because I know for me, it took me a long time to not worry about what I couldn't control. It's really hard for some people, and still I catch myself doing it. So, but baby steps, one little step at a time makes all the difference.
Well, sure. I think we live in a society where people are waiting to get rescued, but there's nobody coming. That's the thing people have to realize, that I don't care who you elect, a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a non-party person. No one is coming to rescue you. Nobody. Like, you have to rescue yourself. You have to rescue your family. And you can do that. You can change so much in your life by just taking action and understanding that you are 100% responsible for where you're at and really where you want to go in this upcoming year.
Yeah, when you think about, the stuff you can control, I mean, all the things you brought up are great, but it's also things like, if you're sitting around complaining about your finances, and then yet you're coming home and sitting down and watching Netflix for 3 hours a night, but then you're like, I don't have time to write a budget. I mean, that's stuff you can control, so I think, and I was guilty of that. I mean, I remember just, paycheck to paycheck mindset, never having enough money, but it was never my fault. It was all these external forces that were working against me that, really that's was the problem. If those would solve the problem, then it would all fix itself, So I totally agree. You got to take control of yourself and don't look to other people. I know people who get wrapped up in it. I always say, I got to go to work tomorrow morning. Like, hey, if they said, hey, I was going to get $1 million because of this election, I would get wrapped up in it too. But guess what? Tomorrow morning, I got to still get up, go to work, and I live my life the same as I would, no matter who wins or loses.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's not to say that whoever's elected, and it doesn't go just for, the president. It goes for anyone who's elected into office. It's not to say that these people can have an effect on your life. They can, but it's such a small percentage compared to the effect that you can have on your own life, the effect that you can have on your kid's life. And Amber, I know you said it's kind of like soul searching, and when we're talking about this stuff, these things don't have to be big ideas. It doesn't have to be like the big stuff. But when it comes to improving your finances, it's pretty basic. Get on a budget, build an emergency fund savings, reduce financial stress. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about on this show are really easy concepts. Yes, they're hard to implement. We get that, but they are easy concepts, and those are things that I think you can get overwhelmed with this idea that, well, my goals have to be really big, larger than life. And I don't know that they necessarily have to be. For a lot of people listening to this show, we've shared this statistic, so, there's like 45%. I think we just shared this on the last podcast. 45% of people had less than $1,000 in a bank account 1 year ago. 45%. I mean, heck, just get yourself out of that statistic, and you're going to be in a much better spot in 2021. So I don't think we got to get wrapped up with that these things have to be big ideas. They can just be small things. But the point is that you're being intentional, you're going to write goals, and you're going to start to work towards some of those things. But again, I think it's up to you to say that 2021 is going to be our comeback year. 2021 is going to be the year where we start to make things happen, no matter what's going on and where we're at with the virus and where things are at anyway, just nationwide. I think, you've got to make that decision. So we're going to come back here after the break. We're going to talk about some quick tips on how you could start writing good financial goals for 2021. And we're going to do this here early December. That gives you a month to kind of look at, okay, what do we want to achieve next year? What do we want to improve? We'll be right back. Hey, if you love planners, this is for you. But do you know why planners frustrate me, though? Because they only get it half right. Now, sure, they're really fancy at helping you manage your time, which is really important. But where they get it wrong is money. Most planners don't include any financial planning. Things like keeping track of paydays, bills and due dates, spending, yearly expenses, budgets, cash flow planning, debt elimination plans, goal planning. And that's a real pain. Then you've got to go and create your own. And who's got time for all of that? So instead, what happens? Nothing. We ignore our finances even more, and things only get worse. Well, that all ends right now, today. I am so excited to announce the release of our brand new, totally awesome Debt Freedom Planner. Now, before you say, Brad, I've already got a planner. Well, this is not your ordinary day planner. This Debt Freedom Planner is a companion tool that works with your day planner to help you save more money, pay off more debt, and melt away financial stress. This is literally the tool that we've all been waiting for that works with your planner to help you take control of your money. So head on over to therealdebtfreedad.com. Click on the Debt Freedom Planner in the menu to get all the details to order your very own Debt Freedom Planner today. Hey guys, we are back. We are talking all about how to set good financial goals here for 2021. And to kick off this segment, we're going to talk about really kind of the first thing that you should be doing. And we talk about this a lot on this show is really what's important to you. You know, when you think about your finances for 2021, what are some things that, you know, if you had to say, hey, it's December 2021, it's been a year from where we're at right now. If you had to say what would make it a great financial year for you, what does that look like? Maybe that's an emergency fund. Maybe that's paying off a credit card. Maybe it's getting started on paying down your student loans. You know, whatever it might be. Maybe it's getting on the same page with your partner or spouse. Or maybe it's just, man, I just don't want to worry about money anymore. And then what does that look like? Like, what things do you need in your life to not have to worry about money anymore? And then starting to break those things down on how you can start slowly achieving those for the upcoming year. What do you guys have any plans right now for 2021 as far as your finances? Amber, you just bought a house. Like, what's the next step for you guys, you think?
I know we've just been focusing on the house and doing some upgrades that we knew we had to do when we moved in. And it's just all been paid cash. We just made it happen. And going from there, I don't know. I'm just enjoying where I'm taking in where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm at fault for that. I skip that part sometimes, and you know, I'm always like, okay, what's next? You know, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, you should enjoy where you're at and wait to see where you guys go from here. What about you guys, Ryan? You guys have anything you're working on for 2021?
We're gonna buy a truck.
Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I mean, and you know, as we kind of went through our debt journey, we kind of sacrificed a lot. We sold a house we love. I sold a truck I loved because we had to buy my other. We had enough equity in that truck to sell it and pay cash for a car for my daughter. We just recently bought a car for my youngest. It's the last one we have to buy. And so then it's like, I finally get the big piece of chicken. Yeah. So
those darn kids.
So we're going to buy a truck. And then the other thing is, we have really went back and forth a lot about moving, and where we're at is just we're going to invest some money in our house and kind of do some improvements next year and kind of just stay put. You know, we've been back and forth on it a lot, but we feel our long-term goal is we want to pay the house off, and you know, our goal would be 10 years, but I think we can do it quicker. It's just right now, similar to Amber, we want to enjoy what we've accomplished. You know, it's part of it's like, well, we could just do all this and then have the house paid off in this amount of time. But it's also like, I'm a little exhausted from working through the whole thing. And I want to take a break and enjoy life a little bit and do some of the things we want to do before we just jump right into the next thing.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. So that's kind of our, you know, goals for next year. You know, and then obviously, my daughter starts college next year. It's the same plan as my son. Try to just get her on the track to, you know, be able to pay cash for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're hoping to make that house purchase next year. That's our big goal. We got delayed because of our daughter's situation, and on the show we haven't really gone into that in great depth. But our daughter had some complications at birth, and about 2 years ago, and that kind of blew up our house savings account and slowed a lot of things down just because we didn't know where we were going to be at. You know, we were told that, you know, she would be severely disabled. And so we just weren't really ready to make any major decisions on anything at that point. But 2 years later, we kind of know where we're at and what we can look forward, where we're going to be. And so our next big goal for this upcoming year is to get ourselves into a house. But again, you know, as we're kind of talking about this stuff, you need to answer those questions in your own life. You know, what's important to you? You know, again, a year from now, what would make 2021 super successful? And writing those things down. All right. We talk a lot about like having that why power. You know, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to put in the work? Having a reason is going to help you push through a lot of the hard times that are going to come up next year, or the distractions, or you wanting to instead go on a nice winter vacation, right? You get easily distracted on some of these purchases that are out there. So having that really good kind of written down vision of where you want to be a year from now is going to be really helpful. And that kind of comes down to the written down part, like writing it down. Be specific when you're talking about your goals. Don't just say, I want to build an emergency fund. How big of an emergency fund? Don't say, I just want to pay off a credit card debt. Okay, what's the amount? Okay, and what's it going to take every month to get that thing paid off when you want to get it paid off by? Really start writing down and put in the work about what it's going to take to achieve these goals. And by doing so and writing it down, it creates a sense of urgency. And it also gives you somewhat of an action plan of things that, okay, here's the amount, here's what I've written down. Okay, now what are some steps and things that I can start working on to actually make this thing go so we can actually see results?
And if it helps, make some kind of chart that you could check off or highlight or something. I remember my house, Brad. I had my house on a big board and I colored in all the squares to have that 20% down payment. I did that right to the end.
I do remember that.
If you need visual like I do something like that with your written down goals.
So that brings up kind of our next point, though, is that you have to make your goals measurable. And Peter Drucker says if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And that is true. I mean, we talk about, tracking a lot here on the show. What are you spending your money on? Tracking your saving, tracking your spending. It's all about tracking. And when you're working on your goals, it's all about measuring it. In fact, when our Roots Personal Finance members come into our program, and we actually give them a lot of trackers, different things to keep track of their progress. Because here's why this is important, because there's going to be bad days. There's going to be days where things don't work out the way that you want them to. And our memories are sometimes very short-term memories, meaning that you could have been working on this for months, and then all of a sudden you have a bad couple of days or maybe even a bad couple of weeks, and before you know it, you're beating yourself up saying you can't do this, why even bother, right? But if you have trackers, if you've been measuring your progress, if you've been, again, writing it down, you can easily go back and say, I can't give up. Like, look how far I've come, right?
Depending on your situation, for us, we dug ourselves a very deep hole, and it took a long time to get out of that. And that's the stuff that keeps you inspired. The why you talked about, the goals you have, managing or, kind of measuring them, seeing your progress. That's the stuff that keeps you going, because if you don't have any of that, it's a very long road if you don't have anything pushing you to that next month, to kind of, especially like you said, things have happened along the way. Bad things have happened, stuff happens. It sets you back months, 2 months, 3 months. And that's the time when it's easy just to throw in the towel and give up. But if you have all these goals and you have all these things and you're measuring it, it helps you stay on track.
Yep, absolutely. The other thing that's going to help you stay on track too is setting a time frame. And this is a big one that we definitely do with our Roots members when it comes to building their emergency funds. It's like, when you're going to set a goal, you need to set, okay, what's the deadline of getting this done? Make sure you set a time. If you don't set a time, it becomes someday, right? Someday we're going to do this. Well, in a lot of cases, someday just never shows up, right? It's always tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. Right? Isn't that a Garth Brooks song, by the way?
It is.
It is.
So you have to set a time frame for your goals. So again, if you want to build your emergency fund savings, set a deadline. And I would suggest if it's your emergency fund savings, set a short timeline. Emergency funds, especially the smaller ones, shouldn't be done within a year. They should be done within, 2 to 3 months, sometimes even less if you can. If you're paying down your credit card, working with your budget, you should be able to determine, okay, how long is it going to roughly to take us to pay this thing down? So again, setting that deadline is going to be crucial. I would also suggest when it comes to setting your goals that you aim for what I call is the discomfort zone. And a lot of people are afraid of this right here. And you guys could probably talk maybe a little bit about your experience, maybe not even just getting out of debt, but just, life in general. But getting out of your comfort zone is where things happen. That's where it happens. I can remember when I started this business, and I originally started this business, and my biggest crowd that I spoke with was probably like 30 or 40 people in a small room, right? Very small. Well, then I got connected to this company, and they invited me to a conference about, 8 months later. And it was really exciting. This is like the greatest opportunity. We had just opened this business. Like, this is going to be awesome. This is amazing. And at first, it started out to, you're going to have a couple hundred people in your class. And, obviously that was like, whoa, I've never had that many people, right? Well, then I got an email about 3 weeks before the event, and they said, in one of the classes, you're going to have over 2,000 people. I was like, oh, crap, right? But I got to tell you, that was one of the coolest days of my life, because getting outside of your comfort zone and facing fear is where change happens. It's where growth happens, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to your finances. Like, if it comes to like budgeting, if you're afraid of budgeting, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. If you're afraid of not using debt, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable, feeling that uncomfortableness is really a sign that you're making good changes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, this is just, I mean, I kind of live my life this way. If you're comfortable for too long, you're probably not going anywhere. You know what I mean? It just becomes, if it's just the same old, and you're not challenging yourself, you're not growing, and you're not getting better. I'm a big believer that, you know, I mean, and especially when it comes to paying off debt, I mean, we made a lot of uncomfortable decisions. And they were hard. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like day one, I just rolled over and was like, I'm going to sell the house we love, you know. Right. It took a long time to come to that conclusion, but we did make ourselves uncomfortable. You know, if you're looking at your budget for the first time and you're trying to figure out what to cut and you don't want to cut anything, it's just, you do have to get uncomfortable to make changes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if you start noticing too, people are around you, especially the closest people to you, are starting to wonder what the heck you're doing. I think you're in that discomfort zone a little bit. So
yeah, if people start looking at you weird, you're probably in the right. You're doing the right stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, it's like last year when we started this podcast. You know, none of us had ever done a podcast before. I was like, I don't know, we're just gonna try it, right? And it was really uncomfortable at first. Getting our groove, you know, having these conversations, you know, starting a show. Like, but here we are 50 episodes later. So you just got to get started understanding that being uncomfortable is normal. Up next, you also need a support system. And I think this is where a lot of people, when it comes to their finances, fail. And this is where I think a lot of people will fail in reaching financial goals, because you don't have a support system. This is exactly why our business exists. This is why the podcast is here. This is why Roots is here, is because this is where I see most people struggling. It isn't that people... You know, of course, some people in theory might know that they need a budget or should have a plan for their money. You know, most people know that they should probably save more rather than spend more. Most people certainly know that you should probably get out of debt versus adding on more debt. Like, these are just natural things. Like, we just know these things. But how many people are actually doing them? That's the question. You know, the concepts, again, that we share here aren't very difficult, but it's the doing part that's the hard part, right? And that's where most people end up failing and actually reaching their financial goals. So I would strongly suggest looking for a support system. Now, as you're listening to this, in January, we are going to be getting ready to launch our winter session of Roots Personal Finance. We kick it off with our winter workshop, and make sure you check your email for that information if you want to sign up. But you can go to our website, jump on the wait list. And I mean, that alone can be the support system that you need over the next year to help you reach the goals that you want to have in your finances.
Well, I think going back to Amber, what you said previously, and I think it's important, you know, we've shared this statistic a lot, you know, almost 8 out of 10 people are living paycheck to paycheck. So you can't count on the people in your life necessarily to be your support system. Because I remember when Brad, who's my brother, got out of debt, and I've shared this before on the podcast, I thought he was nuts. Like, I wasn't going to, I mean, not to say I was going to not support him, but I wasn't like supportive in the sense of like, I totally was on board and I understand what you're doing. I was like everyone else, like, what the heck are you doing? That's nobody lives their life like that. Like everyone has debt. What are you talking about? So just be aware. I think a support system is huge. It took us a long time to get out of debt because we didn't have a support system. And quite honestly, the society we live in doesn't really support people getting out of debt. I mean, it's just not the society we live in. I mean, and I've said this, you know, if I wanted to lose 10 pounds, I'd probably have a bunch of people around me supporting me, coaching me, helping me. If I said I want to get out of debt, I might have somebody that would say, hey, here's a book I read, but most people would be like, yeah, whatever, you're crazy.
Yep. So
you got to surround yourself with people who are all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's very true. In fact, I just got an email from, I have an old Credit Karma account, and it sends me emails. Oh, your credit score went up this month or whatever. And I always find them comical. Today, I got an email saying that if you raise your credit score by this amount, you'll be able to get a loan for a car. You'll be able to save money on that loan. You'll be able to get a personal loan. And I'm like, it's just all about debt, right? That's all it's about. A credit score ain't gonna help me do jack squat, but get into more debt, right? And that's kind of what Ryan's referring to, is that, you know, our society is built on payments and debt. So you can't depend on just normal friends and family. It's not going to work out real well. And by the way, Ryan does get the award for the most motivational speech when I want to get out of debt. And he basically said, that's not going to work.
And as an older brother, you never want your younger brother showing you wrong. So
here we are. And then last but not least, this is a big one. And I think a lot of people are well, I shouldn't say a lot of people disagree with me. There are some people who disagree with me, and I got to bring this website up because I want to read this. There is this whole idea that when we start out on a new journey and want to achieve new things, and Amber, are you one that disagrees with me on this? I think you are. I think you might be. That you should, you know, like announce that you are, you know, doing whatever it is that you're doing. Like, say, for instance, you have a goal of being debt-free. Like, what do people do? They go on Facebook and they say, I'm going to be debt-free. That's my goal this year, right? And why do we do that? We do that to get the acknowledgement for other people and to get that kind of pat on the back. Like, that's a great goal. But science is starting to prove that those types of acknowledgments and pats on the back for just announcing what your goal is almost the same effect that your brain has when you actually achieve the actual goal that you're trying to reach. So what does that mean? That means that, well, you've already satisfied your brain's desire to get that attention by just announcing that goal on social media or with, friends or whatever it might be. Science is proving that you're less likely to actually keep moving forward towards that goal. Right, Amber, I know you got a big smile on your face.
I'm like itching. I'm like, what? I gotta go read this article. And I mean, okay, it's science. It sounds like legit-ish.
I'm totally gonna read this article because it's legit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go read it. But for me, like, I don't know. Let's say I'm gonna announce it on Facebook or social media, but I'm going to tell people in my closest circle what I'm doing and what my goals are because they're going to hold me accountable. So no, I won't announce it until, you know what, I'll announce it once I've gotten some footing into what I'm doing.
Yeah. See, I think that's a little bit different now. See, I think having a close knit of people that help you become better and you're using them as kind of like maybe almost like accountability partners, I think is totally okay. So check out this article real quick. Common belief, and this article comes from Inc.com. All right, and I will put this in the show notes. This article is written by Melissa Chu, and it says, common belief dictates that publicly announcing your goals increases the chances of success. When you tell everyone that you're going to jog every day, then you feel the pressure of having to follow through on your goal, or otherwise let everyone down. At least that's what we believe. She says, I've done this often. After all, it feels nice to announce all the things that I want to achieve in the future. However, research at NYU led by Peter Gallwitzer shows the opposite. In Gallwitzer's study, 49 psychology students at a German university were asked to fill out a questionnaire on their commitment to become a psychologist. Next, the participants were asked to write down their two most important study intentions for the week, such as, I will take reading assignments more seriously, or I will study more statistics. One group of the participants had their intentions read by the experimenter under the assumption that the participants had completed the assignment correctly. The second group, however, was told that the questionnaire had been wrongly included and would therefore be discarded. In other words, their intentions went unnoticed. It's important. Now, 1 week later, the students were emailed a second questionnaire. They were required to write down their behavioral intentions listed previously and then indicate exactly which days of the week they had acted on each intention. The completed questionnaire was brought to the experimenter where the students received payment or course credit. In the results of the study and the subsequent studies performed on other students, the experimenters found that the students whose intentions were known tended to act less on their intentions than those whose intentions were unknown. Isn't that interesting, right? So again, this is just one study, but this is one of several that I've actually come across that actually suggests things very similar. Again, when you see those likes and you get those comments and you get that attention on social media or even publicly and face to face, it's dopamine, right? I mean, your brain enjoys that. That's what you're looking to achieve when it comes to achieving your goal. So again, I would just be cautious here. If you have big goals coming up for 2021 for your finances, I would just be really careful about who you share those with, because it could cause you more problems in actually achieving those in the future.
You just wonder too, if some of what plays into this is, once you announce goals, then you also get everyone's potential opinions on your goals. Yes, people say, yes, good job, all that, or other stuff, but it can also derail you, and make you think other things. And, hey, I want to get out of debt next year. My goal is to be debt free by the end of 21. And all of a sudden you get this influx of, why you want to do that? And it's smart to have a credit card, and you get all these other opinions. And suddenly you're like, your goal that you had out there that you wanted to achieve suddenly starts to become clouded by other people's opinions and judgments. I just wonder if that plays a little bit into it. Just that announcement, making people aware, invites kind of people's opinions then.
I think that brings up another discussion, which we're not going to get into in this podcast, but it's like caring what other people think. You got to believe in your goals so much that you're not willing to let other people's opinions dictate how you move forward. And I think that's definitely another conversation that we can definitely have in 2021 for sure. So there you guys have it. So again, we talked about, hey, we understand 2020 was a rough year, but 2021 can be a better year, but it's only going to happen by being intentional, by setting good goals and taking some of these tips. Again, there's lots of information out there. I would encourage you to go on Google, start searching, hey, how to set good goals. There's lots of great stuff out there. But your finances need to be a priority in 2021 if you want to improve your overall life. And we're here to tell you that you can make it happen.
Hey, what's this I see? I thought this was a party! Let's dance!
All right, as you guys know, that sound means it's time for the celebrations of the show. And these individuals are taking the steps and being intentional, working towards financial freedom and their goals. Julienne's stuck to my budget and didn't buy things just because they were on sale. Those are huge behavior changes. I love it.
Do you want me to read my
Yeah, Amber, I put that in there just for you. Amber's got her own celebration in here today.
I'm reading my own?
Yeah, you totally are.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, I'll read it. Amber and Paul Taylor, they are paying for all of our new home updates in cash. Way to go, Amber and Paul. Awesome job.
Thank you. Gretchen Majura, I have officially reduced my debt balance by $25,412.22 since starting Roots back in January 2019.
That is impressive. Great job, Gretchen. That's so awesome.
Mary Southard paid $1,048 towards debt and put $200 in a health account and put $225 towards sinking funds.
Awesome. Great job, Mary. I love what Mary's celebrations are about because they're always, that's a big one, $1,048 in debt, but her celebrations are constantly just those small wins, week in, week out. I love it. Whitney Merritt, didn't eat out all this week. Huge win. Stuck to my budget, and I'm on my way to having all of the clutter around my house sold to go towards bills. That is huge. Awesome job, Whitney.
Jasmine Zachary, today I stayed on budget when I went to Target to pick up household stuff. I also started tracking my daily spending as of yesterday. Baby steps, she says.
That's huge. Way to go, Jasmine. Congratulations.
Katie Willette, I canceled my wine club membership. Good, but sad at the same time. LOL.
Hey, by the way, if you shop at Aldi, they still have pretty decent wine for like $5, I think. It's Katie, you should check.
I don't know how to get wine for $5 in Canada.
Oh yeah, well it may not. That may not be a good Canada tip. Okay, sorry. All right, lots of great celebrations, guys. Congratulations to all of you who are working so hard, and that is a wrap on our 2020 podcast season. We are ending it with 50 episodes. Again, we want to thank all of our listeners for hanging out with us week in and week out. We are going to be back the early part of January, the first Tuesday in January, with a brand new episode to kick off 2021. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our show. So please give us a like or leave us some honest feedback. And if you want to get the latest from the show, be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe to our channel. And if you heard that commercial for my brand new Debt Freedom Planner during the show, head over to therealdebtfreedad.com. Click on the planner in the menu on top and order yours today. We'll see you on an upcoming episode of the show. Take care.